I really should pay attention to these things. As you can see, I'm not particularly professional at this sort of thing. We just heard from Fiona Murphy, who represents the Category F core participants, who are the families of the children whose identities were stolen by undercover police officers after they died, mostly very young. One of the striking things was at the beginning of giving the opening statements, the lawyers read out who the core participants they are speaking on behalf of are. In the case of of Category F, one of the families is a core participant whose relative's identity was used by a fully autonomous undercover officer. That's to say that that person or that family cannot have their name listed, because if we were to know their name, there is a danger that the officer who stole their dead child's identity or their dead relative's identity as a child would be exposed or is in danger of being identified. This whole practice of stealing dead children's identities, and let's be clear, this is not just stealing their names, this is stealing the whole identity. We heard during phase 2 from a number of former undercover officers about how they didn't just go and infiltrate, like use the group with the name of this dead child, that they visited like the school, they went and spied on the family to kind of get an approximation of what kind of life this child would have grown into having, what school they would have gone to, what jobs they might have ended up doing, that kind of thing, to like flesh out their cover identity. So this isn't just the stealing of the name, this is stealing of the entire identity of this dead child. That's fucking sick. And I don't see, I think it's a fucking horrible fucking practice, ghoulish, just vile. But then for that to be compounded by the inquiry to like err on the side of secrecy for that officer instead of some respect, any kind of respect for those families, by not even allowing them to identify themselves as part of this process, is degrading and fucking vile. Just like, fuck you. Do you know what I mean? We heard about Barbara Shaw, who was the first family member to make a complaint about police, who has sadly died since this process has started. She was the mother of Rod Richardson, who died when he was 2 days old and had his identity stolen by an undercover cop. We heard some about speculation about where this practice came from. Was it from Day of the Jackal, which a former undercover officer during phase 2 said that they'd all gone to the cinema together and seen it and started the practice after that. Another officer said that it was something that had been dreamed up because the KGB had done it unsuccessfully. Why they would copy an unsuccessful practice, I don't really know. This practice of stealing dead children's identities, like with Rick Gibson, Richard Clark, who infiltrated Big Flame, his stealing of an identity wasn't successful in maintaining his cover identity. He was confronted with the death certificate of the child whose identity he stole by members of Big Flame, which led him to being withdrawn from the field. Other officers managed to successfully evade being identified by using completely fictitious identities. So why the need to do this? You don't know. I mean, like so much of like how the undercover officers operated. It's kind of feels kind of pointless to like kind of get involved the ethical considerations. I mean, plenty of these former undercover officers have expressed regret in hindsight, but like not at the time. So, they still, it wasn't against the law. The only danger was re-traumatizing the grieving families. Well, that's kind of a serious fucking danger, really, and an inevitable danger. Like if they hadn't have found out through some sort of publicity at the time, that name cropping up in some other way, that they found out eventually. They found out the way they did, when the whole thing came crashing down. I'm going to have to cut this short because we're about to go back with the next stage of the inquiry. We've got Charlotte Kilroy, QC, representing Category H core participants next.